Go down there and spend some time on the Riverwalk. She's 3 years old, so she'll like that. Yeah,
What's his lips runs every time? That
A
Winston.
good age.
Make it run from there every time. He buys the nice signs too, like the big ones.
Yeah, but I can't.
I don't think they do much good.
He
Yeah.
said,
Outside.
a friend of mine
Mine's don't
live in
know.
Austin, he
That's,
said traffic
You know,
between
thing
Waco
that-
and Austin.
Honestly, there's no substitute for
You
the
don't get,
Like all the time, or I was
Gotta
planning
get
to
people to
leave
do
like
it too.
around noon
too. I had,
on
well, I didn't have
Thursday
as many.
to try to avoid the rush hour traffic. Is that
works.
stupid?
that's what he said. He said, try to avoid as much as you can. Because he said,
Yeah, it
highway
worked.
is still messed up.
little
Waco
They're
and
both
Austin.
booming and everything in between is.
It's kind of growing together, you know, but it is a lot of people coming out. Big, 1,100, 1,200 people.
I know.
It's kind of scary.
That just sucked the joy right out of it.
Ran up for that one. Bless his heart.
Mm.
I see we finally have the quick trip.
What was her name, that one we had for a while?
The different one.
Okay, Dean, we're ready.
It's the same one on the road.
The time is 6:30 PM and the Louisville Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of Tuesday, November 1st, 2016 is now called to order, and we do have a quorum present. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the October 18th, 2016 meeting. If there are no additions or corrections, may I have a motion to approve as presented?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Move to approve by Steve. Seconded by William. Those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 3 is public hearing for consent agenda plats. There are 2 of them, 3A and 3B. Those will be read at the same time, discussed at the same time, and voted on as one motion unless there is an objection. So item 3A is the public hearing, final plat of Lake Point Edition, Phase 5, Lot 8R, Block H, containing 10.021 acres. It is zoned general business, GB, located on the east side of Stemmons Freeway, approximately 1,350 feet north of State Highway 121. And this is a replat of Lake Point Edition, Phase 5, Lot A, Block H. Item 3B is a public hearing for a final plat of East Step Edition, Lot 2R, Block A. This contains 2.812 acres. It is zoned local commercial, LC. It's located on the northeast corner of Farm to Market 3040 and Willow Grove Drive, being a replat of a portion of East Step Edition, Lot 2, Block A. June?
Good evening, Commissioners. There are 2 plots on the agenda to be considered for the approval. There are no variances requested, and staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve the plots as presented.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, questions, concerns, anything? Okay, at this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Anyone that wishes to speak on items Lake Point or East Step, please come forward, sign in, and state your name. All right, having no one come forward, the public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, again, comments? Anything? Okay, then may I have a motion on the consent agenda plats?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Kristen to approve,
Second.
seconded by Mary Ellen. Those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimous. Okay, item 4 is public hearing zoning special use permits. Item 4A is consideration of a zone change request from Office District OD to Old Town Mixed Use 2 District OTMU2 on approximately 0.479 acres situated in the J.W. King Survey. It's abstract number 696, further identified as 112, 118, and 120 North Hatcher Avenue, being a portion of Lot 12, Rawlings Edition, as requested by Christy Steed, Eves Moon LLC, the property owner. This is case number PZ 2016-11-29. June?
Commissioners, this item will actually need to reappear at a later date. The applicant has failed to meet the notification requirements. So at this time, this item cannot be heard. There is no action is required on your behalf.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on then to public hearing, item 4B. It's consideration of the zone change request from single-family residential district, R 7.5, to Old Town Mixed Use 1 District, OTMU1, on approximately 0.206 acres, legally described as Lot 11, Block B, the Gann Edition, located at 503 and 505 Milton Street, as requested by Gabriela Martinez, Roberto Martinez, and Lydia Martinez, the property owners. Case number PZ 2016-11-30. June?
Okay. Commissioners, this property is located on the west side of the Milton Street, approximately 150 feet north of the Purnell Street on the south. The property is currently occupied by 2 residents, but Denton Central Appraisal District record the home was originally constructed in 1954. The applicant would like to add onto the existing house that's there. The current zoning of the property is single-family residential. The existing house is being used as a duplex, which is a legal non-conforming use for this zoning district. The proposed Old Town Mixed Use 1 zoning allows a duplex and would allow greater flexibility with setbacks. The proposed zone is consistent with the zoning recommended by the Old Town Master Plan, and staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the zone change request from single-family residential to the Old Town Mixed Use 1 District. Any questions?
Commissioners, questions? No? All right, June, thank you very much. This time we'll open up the public hearing. Anyone that wishes to speak on item 4B, please come forward, sign in, and state your name. All right, having no one come forward, the public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, comments? If not, may I have a motion for item 4B?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by William,
I'll second.
seconded by John. Those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimous. Item 4C is public hearing. It's consideration of a special use permit, SUP, request for a gas service station on approximately 3.268 acre tract, excuse me, located on the northwest corner of I-35E and Farm to Market 407, further identified as a portion of Lot 2, Block A, Blake C. Bowen Edition. It's requested by Michael Potter of Quick Trip on behalf of Brad Bowens, Trinity Partners, the property owners. This is case number SUP 2016-11-11. Mary?
Good evening, Commissioners. Guess I'm trying to see if the overhead here was working properly. Dean, is the overhead connected?
What's that water tower there?
So we just need to clear out of here and go, which one are you trying to open up?
No, it's not showing.
Oh, it's not showing that up there?
No. This is the old one.
Okay, can we clear this out now or end the slideshow and maybe start it again? I'm not sure why it wouldn't be showing. Should be up there.
Sorry. Having some technical difficulties. Here we go. Sorry about that. The item before you this evening is a location for a new Quick Trip gasoline service station. Quick Trip currently owns the property. The special use permit is for the actual gasoline service station portion. So what they're proposing is a convenience store with gasoline service station pumps. They are proposing 12 pumps for this location that would be able to service 24 cars at this location. The site is actually located 2 doors down from their current location. They are also asking for 4 variances, which will be considered by Louisville City Council at a later date. The 4 variances are reduced driveway spacing along FM 407, reduced stacking on FM 407 driveway, to allow driveway along the I-35 within the denial of access limits, and D, to allow a hooded left turn on FM 407 within the required 600 feet from each signal. So currently the property is vacant. TxDOT has recently purchased some of the frontage along I-35 and has basically put a denial of access, so basically no driveway entrances off of I-35. The gas station that they are proposing would have a approximately 5,800 square foot convenience store, which is approximately 1,000 square foot larger than their existing site on FM 407. Within the red delineation identifies the proposed site. The yellow identifies their existing site. Within a mile of this location, there are 3 existing gasoline service stations, 2 on the north side of FM 407 and 1 on the south. The building design is pretty standard with the Quick Trip. They will have a brick and stacked stone facade with metal awnings and cornices. The front, go over here. The front is shown as on the exhibit. They'll have signage along the front, the typical QT colors of red with the white. The gas canopy will cover the entire 12 pumps, so 24 cars. The building will be 22 feet tall at its highest point. Signage for the building will be along the front as well as along the canopy in the typical QT colors, black, red, and white logo. The signage on the building is proposed to be illuminated and would have to meet the signage requirements. They are also proposing a monument sign along FM 407 and then a 60-foot tall pole sign on the I-35 frontage. Staff is opposed to the 60-foot tall pole signage along the I-35 frontage. Most of the gas stations that we've had come through, we've requested that they do monument signs. In terms of landscaping and screening for the site, there is a 60-foot Brazos electric easement and a 40-foot Lone Star gas easement that run through this site. So it kind of limits. So if you look on the western portion of the site, there's a large grassy area because it's largely undevelopable. So you'll see some trees located in that area where it's not in the easements. There are some additional easements along the frontage And they are proposing some needlepoint holly in that area. Trees on the site will be dispersed throughout the parking areas along the I-35 frontage and closer on the west end to the western entrance where there are not easements. So the typical landscape buffer is 10 foot. With this particular development, they're proposing anywhere from 15 to 27 feet. A lot of this will have shrubbery as well as trees where there are not located in the easement. So in summary, the proposed gas station and associated convenience store will consist of brick, stacked stone, aluminum cornice, gas canopy, and awnings. Landscaping along the street frontage will be in the form of grass, shrubs, ground cover, landscape strip from 15 to 27 feet. What I'd like to focus on now is the location of this site in relation to some of the plans that the city has. So if you look on your screen to the north here, this area is identified in our Louisville 2025 plan as one of our focal points. So what we're looking for is there's 3 areas in the city identified in the purple. And this site falls within one of those focal point areas. These focal point areas are basically main entrances into the city. In this particular area, they should be providing unique mixed uses as well as retail, employment, and residential opportunities. In concert with the 2025 plan, we have the Northern Gateway Plan, which was prepared for the city and further identifies this area as a special intersection, which should act as a landmark for this gateway entrance. The intersection should provide an aesthetically pleasing, pedestrian-friendly environment and support an identity throughout the project area. So if you look on the screen, the area identified within the red circle is the location of the proposed gas station. This is one of our main entrances, and if the gas station was to locate here, that would be your landmark, would be the gas station, not the 4 to 6 story office building with mixed use that we have in mind, not the promenade area that we have in mind. So staff is opposed to locating a gas station at this particular location. So within the 3 plans that you're looking at, there's supposed to be, a linear promenade that starts north of here and extends south of 407. These types of things are what we have a vision for. The proposed gas station does not support that vision. So we're hoping that the promenade, the different building types, will create an area that's walkable, developed at a pedestrian scale, and offers people different opportunities to interact. We don't feel that the gas station would help support this. The Northern Gateway Plan does show the existing gas station in its current location, so it's not that we don't want the gas station to go away necessarily, it's just that we don't feel that this is a good location for a new gas station. So staff has been in discussion with the applicant over the suitability of the proposal at this location. We do not support the special use permit request for a gasoline service station due to the non-conformance with the long-range plans for the area. And staff is not in support of the majority of the variances being requested. So staff would recommend that P&Z deny the special use permit request for a gasoline service station at this location. The applicant is here and would like to make a presentation. Do you have any questions at this time?
Commissioners? No? Thank you, Mary. Do we do his presentation as part of the public hearing or prior to?
Before the public hearing.
Okay. Okay, at this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Anyone that wishes to speak, please come forward, sign in, and state your name.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Mike Potter, Quick Trip, 1120 North Industrial Boulevard, Euless, Texas, 76039. I am the real estate project manager on this site. Very excited to be here tonight. Excited to show you what we are proposing for moving this location. There we go. Sorry. So I have a few facts about Quick Trip. 14 years on the Forbes 100 Best Companies, or Fortune's 100 Best Companies, Forbes Top 100 Privately Held Companies, and QT contributes 5% of our profits every year to charitable organizations. This may not have, you may not have noticed this yourselves, but I guarantee we've had a positive impact in your community in some way. I know that it was mentioned earlier about the 2025 vision about producing jobs. Each store produces in generally about 20 new jobs per store. This is our kitchens. Our kitchen expansion, we finished in summer of 2015. Every store was retrofitted. The older style stores and all new stores have the kitchens. We are continuing to get better every day at food, increasing our offering in each of the stores, and we're really excited about the future of that business for us. It's something new for us that we're offering. Okay, so this is a picture of our existing store. The existing store is approximately 340 feet from where we are proposing to move to the next site. This is our older style store. We have 4 locations in Louisville currently. This is the older box style store, shoebox style store that that's what we have in Louisville. They're all the older style store. I think we showed a picture earlier, and I'll go more into detail on the new style, but we're really excited about it, and I think that it's going to be a good offering for the city of Louisville. This store was built in 2008, so it's only 8 years old. We build these stores to last 20, 25 years, so this is a big investment for us, a big investment in the city of Louisville for us to move this location just 340 feet away. One thing I do want to mention about the store, it was mentioned that there is additional gas uses in the area. We are one of those gas uses, and we are part of the Northern Gateway in the 2025 vision. We are currently located within that. Our current location would not be a gas use in the future. We would deed restrict this site for no future gas use. What would happen with this location is we would remove all the branding, we would take the canopy off, we'd remove all the equipment from the building, and we would remove the tanks. We would work with the TCEQ to take those out, test the dirt, make sure there's no further action, and fill the hole back in and attempt to sell this piece of property. We have been approached by several people to buy this location, pending our move. Nothing is imminent on that right now, but we have been approached. This is a current overview of the zoning for this site. It is LI zoning because of our use. An SUP is required. All of the Northern Gateway 2025 vision is light industrial zoning. So this is a little bit, these are a little small to be able to tell. It's tough to look at the Northern Gateway vision. A couple things I wanted to touch on when it comes to that. We believe that we are improving the 2025 vision and the Northern Gateway plan. We are excited about it. We want to see development in this area. If you look at it, you will see one, we'll talk about the easements on our property, but they currently show a 8-story building with a parking structure. That's not what can go on this site. It has several easements that what's shown there would not be able to be built. Our belief is that we would open this area up for development quicker than us staying in our current location. If we move to the corner, our site is able to redevelop, and your true north-south road in this area is Summit. That's where the stoplight is. That's where the traffic is. That's what the residents are going to use to get to this redevelopment behind us. That opens up where that blank spot is between us and the store. That's ours as well. That opens up redevelopment, and then that is your gateway into the redevelopment, your gateway into frontage redevelopment. If the vision is to build potentially a hotel where we're trying to move, a hotel wants walkability. They want to be able to, they want visual, be able to see aesthetically pleasing items. What we believe is the hotel would go in the back corner and you have potential to see the lake from there. I mean, that's what you're going to see, and then they have walkability towards our site. Okay, so this is our current site plan. We have several easements that run along the west edge of our property, and it really limits our ability to develop this site. It's approximately a 3.2 acre site. Really only about 2 acres of this site are developable. You can't build structure on those easements, and it really limits what can go on here. And you're really cut off. You've got McDonald's on the west side of us, and you've got the small racetrack kids playland to the north. And that you don't have access to the future development to the north. We are asking for a few variances on this site. The first variance would be the access on the frontage. There is, so TxDOT did purchase control of access on this site. They purchased more right away, but TxDOT has always had control of access on this site. And we are very familiar with working with TxDOT. Most of our locations are on these hard corners, off of highways. We are very adept at getting through the TxDOT process and seeking approval through them. I would ask that the access on the 360 frontage, or 360, excuse me, the access on the 35E frontage be approved with this SUP, pending TxDOT approval and city permits approval. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the driveway spacing on FM 407. So with the easements, it's kept our ability to move that drive further to the east or west. It's kind of hamstrung us to put it in the center, in between the middle. The required amount is 230, and we're at 174 feet, spacing it in the middle. We do believe there is an easement hardship requiring that drive to be in the center. Anybody that develops this site is going to want access there. We are asking that variance for the driveway spacing be approved with this SUP pending city permits and TxDOT approval. The driveway stacking. So the requirement is 40 feet. It's a city requirement to have 40 feet of stacking. We're providing the 40 feet of stacking on the exit, which makes complete sense to have 40 feet of stacking. You're going to have people coming out of our site stacking at the exit. We are providing a turn lane. So we're providing 110 feet of storage before you're turning into our site off of that FM 407 drive. We believe that's where people are going to be stacking. And so we currently have 27 feet there, and if you were to add the 13 feet, the width of the turn lane, that adds up to 40 feet. We believe we are meeting the intent of that variance. So we do request that variance be approved through the SUP process pending TxDOT and city permit approval. Yeah. Okay.
The variances can only be approved through from our land development code by the city council. So actually the Planning and Zoning Commission does not make any recommendations on the variances. So we can skip the variances.
Okay, yeah, not a problem, absolutely.
I would like to emphasize to the commission that the fact that this site has a lot of variances and it could only be doable with variances indicates that the site is not suitable for the use. That's why in our redevelopment plan we have this site combined with other projects, even areas that are already existing, but to redevelop as a more comprehensive site, so the control of access, the right turn lane, the landscaping, the driveway locations, all of those could be met through a larger development.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate the clarification. I apologize if I was heading in the wrong direction. I'd like to just touch on the hooded left-in. It allows customers to get into the site heading east on FM 407. Got a colored site plan. We are going over and above most of the landscaping required in this area. One thing I would mention is all that front landscaping will be seeded and maintained by Quick Trip. It is TxDOT right away. We will landscape that and maintain it. Here's our building. This isn't just a standard building that we're providing all over North Texas. We did add the stacked stone to the front of the building. That is an added feature. We upgraded the rear columns on the back of the building as well. And one thing that's unique about this compared to our old style stores, it has 4 entrances. You know, we're a busy location, and it's hard to get people in and out of a single door, and that is something that's positive with a new location. Here's a front view of the store. Basically, pretty close to the intersection. You've got a 35E frontage drive. So this is where the view of the store, the back of it. This is from the actual frontage, so you can tell the store is blocked. This is where we had to put most of our trees in this area because of the existing easements that run along the FM 407 frontage. This is from the 407 Drive. And this is our sign plan. I did include the signs. We do meet code for these signs. It is, for light industrial, it is allowable 60 feet at 247 square feet, or it is, the pole sign is 60 feet, and combined with the monument sign is 300 square foot total, and we do meet that. We are proposing a 60-foot, 247 square foot sign, and a 6-foot monument sign at 24 square feet. The monument sign is upgraded. It does have brick encased, and we believe that this should be included in the SUP because it is on 35E frontage. I'm here to answer any questions. I do have my real estate manager here, Trua Pretty, as well, to answer any questions. Really excited to be here. Definitely apologize if I was headed down the wrong path, but I'm here to answer any questions about this development.
I'll just start with a couple. How many acres does QT own, and how long have they owned that property?
That's a good question. Trua, do you have that answer?
Hi, my name is Trua Pretty. My address is 1120 North Industrial Boulevard, Euless, Texas, 76039. And could I clarify, is it the existing site you're referring to?
The new proposed.
Okay, the proposed site is under contract for purchase. It is not currently owned by us. It is 3.289 acres, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Kristen?
My first question is actually for the city. There was several comments made about the zoning on this property being light industrial. What's the future land use or the planned, I don't know if it's, is it a special district? Is there a specific zoning that we're hoping for this to be?
Yes, based on the most recent plan, the future zoning is the future land use plan is a mixed use district.
Okay, so then for that reason, he's saying that the sign is in compliance with light industrial, but that's just what it is. That's what it's zoned today, not what the plan is.
You need to press down to talk.
Correct, but our the signage, our sign requirements or sign ordinance has nothing to do with zoning. So the sign is primarily use-based and the size of buildings that you have. The only comment that I can make about signage is one of the reasons to have a special use permit, even if this site was suitable for a special use permit application, was to go above and beyond the minimum requirements of the ordinance. And signage is normally one that we look at. So the whole purpose of the special use permit is not to meet just the bare minimum requirements of the ordinance, but enhance it. And adding as much signage as they have added to this site is actually detracts from it versus enhancing the site. So it may meet the current sign ordinance regulations, which has nothing to do with zoning, actually.
Okay. I had another question. Was there any consideration given to upgrading the existing site? And if so, why was that decided against?
We have looked at upgrading some of our, we call them the Gen 2 stores. This store is underperforming compared to our other locations in Louisville, and we believe that it's underperforming because it is not on the highway. And so that is why we are looking at this, to move the store, because it's underperforming. And I would like to add that it's my understanding if we were in a light industrial use, we would be able to have that signage that didn't require an SUP.
Any gasoline service station in the city requires an SUP, regardless of zoning. So if you are allowed within that zoning district, it's allowed only with a special use permit. However, the signage so there are many, many other uses that are also allowed in the SUP. But I'm trying to make a clarification our sign ordinance is based on the size of building that you have and not the use that you have.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. I just had one one final comment. I can appreciate what you're trying to do for the purposes of finding the best site for your business. However, from my perspective, a lot of time and energy has gone into the Louisville 2025 plan, and the point of these focal areas is to create a place that is uniquely Louisville. And to me, a Quick Trip, as much as I like Quick Trip, because I go to Quick Trip, it's not uniquely Louisville to me. And, I think what you guys are proposing is really nice and really great. I just don't like it on this site.
To answer that, I believe we are adding to the Northern Gateway in the 2025 plan. That site only has so many possible uses. Based on the easements, it's a 2-acre site that you're going to be able to develop. We are opening up a gateway to future development. And we are the best use for that corner. It's a busy corner. It's meant for a use like us.
I understand. I think there's what it is right now and what it's planned to be. And when I look at the special district plan or the layout, that's right in the middle, the first thing that everybody's going to see. I think that site is incredibly important to have something unique and special there. And for that purpose, I can't vote yes for this.
Commissioners, anyone else? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Potter.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Public hearing is still open. Anyone else that wishes to speak, please come forward.
My name is Truett Pretty, 1120 North Industrial Boulevard. I'm with Quick Trip Corporation. I'm a real estate manager for them. I just want to touch on a couple of items in which I heard a few questions and just wanted to clarify a few things. So for the site, and I'll keep it brief because I know there may be many questions here or thereafter, is that it does have the easements and it slices into the property in a manner to where it really makes it an island. So from a standpoint of this being an island on the hard corner, and economically in the development world, the uses in the future for this property are most likely going to be C-Store, Walgreens, one of those players that are really economically able to go on a 2-acre pad. The net developable acres here, it's under contract at 3.2 acres. It's really slightly over 2. And economically, it's going to be really difficult for, let's say it's a hotel user to come pay a price on that hard corner when they can go on the rear of the property, have a lake view, and pay a lot less and have much more ample room to really develop their site. In addition to that, with the existing store and really looking at possibilities to pretty it up and remodel it and make it kind of like what we're proposing, the reasons behind that is we're really looking to potentially upgrade all of our stores in the future. We really want them all to look like that. So whenever we're looking at that, we're looking at, hey, where is the best long-term position for this store since we're going to invest so much money in it? And that's how we kind of came to this location. In terms of the current location, you're going to have a Quick Trip store right there in the gateway of the entrance, really regardless if we're on the hard corner or where we are today. And what Michael was trying to get to earlier is that Summit Avenue has a signal right there at FM 407. So whenever people use 35E and come across 407, that's going to be the primary entrance right there at Summit Avenue at the signal where everybody's coming in and out of the mixed-use development. If you think of any large mixed-use development in Dallas, for instance, if you're going to turn left out of there, you're absolutely going to use this signal. And we're right there on the hard corner of that signal. So it's really an exchange for another, and what you're getting is a brand new Quick Trip that's not even our standard model. We really prettied it up at this location. We added rear stone columns to it, the rear facade. We added a lot of features to this site to really understand that, hey, this is going to be a really good development behind us. We want to be compatible here. We're open to a few concessions that we could maybe do further to pretty up this site, whether it be a monument on the corner that really says the development's name. So really what we're asking today is for questions. What comments, what advice do you have that we could really do to maybe pretty this up, fit in with the development? It is the high traffic node right there. So really, I just want to touch on a few of those points. And for the pole sign, I heard a couple questions on that. The existing store has a pole sign, and it's not on the hard corner. It's about 40 feet and 400 square feet. So really, we're just asking that we're able to retain that when we move over here, and then get 20 feet additional just so that the main lanes on 35 could see it, because at 40 feet, it'd be just about even with those main lanes and have no visibility to the highway. So I'm going to keep it at that and really open it up for questions, and I hope there are many. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Can you sign in?
All right, anyone else that wishes to speak, please come forward, sign in, state your name. All right, this time we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, comments? All right.
Have you done any studies, or what is the rationale that for 340 feet move that's going to,
Return on investment.
yeah, that's going to produce more for that store?
We internally perform all of our site selection. We are very active here in DFW. I would say, you know, obviously I work for the company, so it's kind of biased, but I would say we're probably one of the best at locating our stores. It provides better access, better visibility. It's more at the edge to where people have to pass you to get in and out. From our experience here in Dallas-Fort Worth, it is absolutely economically a decision that we feel would make economic sense for us.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Purdy. Anybody else have comments before we get a motion? Discussion? All right, then may I have a motion on item 4C for the SUP? Motion to deny the SUP application by William,
Second.
seconded by Steve. Those in favor signify aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously for denial. Having no other business, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Motion by Alvin to adjourn,
Second?
seconded by Mary Ellen. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Oh, hey, Mika, I was gonna ask you, you said that. Thanks, Jeff. Because you know what would happen if you weren't here? When is that? Okay. So I think I've just recently met somebody who's doing a lot of stuff in Frisco, and I thought he might be interested. So I was gonna kind of talk to him about it and see if that's something he might want to go for. Okay. Mhm. Okay, excellent. I will send it to him.
I was getting this track mixed up with the one that we did approve, so general concept for mixed use from Garden Ridge. But did it run as far south as 407? It was a large project.
121 and.
And is that still happening? Richard said they never did anything, they never made any agreements. And the thing it isn't about the fact that it's Quick Trip, it's the location. And it was sad watching them fumble around the gateway like this. Completely don't understand. But this is commercial real estate, a lot of them. They don't get it. And they don't care because they can do this.
You're welcome. Oh, something I learned for 2 cents. Could you sign the minutes for the last planning and zoning meeting? And
Someone
you can just
planning
write
on referencing this months ago.
so just so that we know that there's a record that we already
Was
wrote in the
suggesting
minutes
that,
that
you
you
know,
were
they
there,
was pretty much intimating that if it didn't get this,
but we forgot to get you to sign.
they were gonna sell their existing store, close that down.
So,
It's gonna take up nothing you could go in there, it'd be another
It's called
tire
Banners
store.
at Forest Brook.
I didn't know whether that was
It's got another
directed at me,
development.
because I hate this.
Okay.
And that's perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's like,
Looked at it today.
who's doing tech tonight? I had none of this, and what I had up here was October 28th
called
meeting,
Manners at
and then
Forest Brook.
November 1st, and there was never any connection to
It's at
anything.
least 80 or more.
So I need to tell them.
That presentation up there wasn't coming
And that,
through.
all we had was this picture of,
Oh, really?
that's what we all had,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, it's gonna be a
Just
gated
need to pass
community.
it out.
Yeah, so there'll be, all front entry townhomes. So, you know, a lot of the trees
We
that
did
are gonna
unanimous,
be gone, but they'll,
Yes, it's all.
I thought about
they're
mowing.
keeping a patch, and then they're gonna be, you know,
One that
planting.
is so
This
close
is just for them,
Yeah.
like, that also has a power planners in there, they can also see
I
it.
know that. But, well, you're the,
Yeah,
you're the.
it's pretty hilly. and-
Close that up. This.
So I noticed how immediately everything, attention was totally directed. So how the hell are you? I didn't make the ULI, I just wanted things messed me up, so.
Yeah.
It sounded like a great time.
No.
For some of the projects. I don't know how I got
Well, it's like, which ones are staying, which ones are going bye-bye. Hey, what do you need? Laura,
You did need to sign this one.
what does she need?
I think she just.
What do you need?
I got her to sign. Oh, she's still there, okay.
No electioneering off the
Fair Housing Forum.
I don't think I need to. Right.
Kristen, I lied, it's this one.
Oh, did I sign the wrong one?
I gave you the wrong one, two sides.
Okay.
The public hearing is
On the,
for the, fair housing.
Okay.
So it'll just be the same thing. You
So
can,
just do it underneath?
you can actually cross out Jim's name and just write Kristen Green, Vice Chair. Oh, we don't get nice signs. I'm very good at getting things mixed up.
That's okay. It happens to all of us. Sometimes you just have a long day.
Yes, it has been a while.
Yeah, this week is gonna be a long
the day
day.
of the week, we'll be able to take some of those plastic ones. You have a good night.
All right, you too.
Can't be any more fun.
Here, Kristen.
It's definitely a learning experience. Thank you, Krista. Wow, those chairs. Yeah, go ahead. They have a little knob on there somewhere that you should be able to twist it. Yeah, to raise the height of the seat. Oh, you're welcome. For real. I guess I'm just gonna have to just sit like this, cause it's not working. My phone's cut off. No, I'm gonna use things, just in case. Oh, okay. They'll turn it off, so don't worry about it. Oh, okay. Not in case, I'm sure. I tried to raise them up, they don't raise up, so I just left it alone. I was trying to get us, hey, look, I was trying to get us some of those, plastic signs.
Those are sweet.
Yeah, I know. Jamie said we would have to meet here more often. I said, well, let's meet here more often so we can get those signs. The family. Yeah, yes, we need those signs. I tried, they don't go in. There was a knob on there that you could twist. Yeah, you twist the knob. But that would let you. It's my luck, I'll break my fingernail or break my finger, so I'm gonna leave it alone. If I need to sit up higher, I'll just sit on my leg. I thought we were just sitting in, I'm a real short person. Don't worry about this computer, if you're not using it, that one. Yeah, I don't think we're using computer for anything. Alrighty, bye-bye. people will go in and make sure there's integration and addressing company risks.
What do you do?
I work for
I think we're good.
inspection company.
Oh, what kind
Yeah,
of
I do,
inspection?
we do inspections for like businesses and homes,
Oh,
for homeowners, for
the same
insurance
kind of
companies.
things, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. So I do customer service with that. Yeah, but we get a lot of stuff with, because we just got a new system, a new phone system and a new computer system and everything, so IT is
Yeah.
playing a big part right around here.
I'm sure. Sort of like embedded everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it used to be in my work, there was like a financial side and IT side. It was like, okay, and IT kind of supports financial,
Do you
but now
have
everything's
the
so
minutes from
integrated.
last week?
They split it apart.
That's right, yes.
I need a,
It's item 4.
so just the power
This
cord.
power cord, not this cord. Yeah, that's these. The side on something?
No, I think we're just supposed to answer their questions.
The what?
I don't know. I think I missed this last time, so.
We never usually use gavel, so you take the gavel.
It's not on.
Oh, so we are gonna need this? Oh, I can just,
No.
I can just watch it from over here.
We don't.
It's still got this on there.
It's just blue. Mine's just blue.
I would just have to get up on mine. Do we have quorum? Yeah, we have quorum.
I think Jamie's gonna put PowerPoint.
Huh?
See, none of the screens here are getting the PowerPoint. Is it the?
You have to press the little button.
Right.
Do you see that kind of oval thing?
Yeah, he's clicking it now.
Yeah.
One of them doesn't work, but the other ones work.
Okay, there we
I'm
go.
getting,
Is that what they're supposed to be seeing? That's not what
no,
they're
they should be
supposed to
seeing what's up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just getting,
Is that one of yours or no?
no. We're either getting that or we're getting a blank screen.
Dean, are you still there? Do you guys have an agenda or anything?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, okay. Okay, so nothing electronic.
Mary, is there agenda like on the S drive or anything? They don't have it on the S drive?
They have paper.
Okay, just the paper, okay. Yeah, we're not fancy like.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Hence, we get our name tags upside down and I gotta play. Well, I guess we're just spoiled complaining that.
He said that everything that he
But
said was
changes
allowed
are coming, cause I'm.
You know what? When it says the postpone thing, I gotta unplug it and plug it back.
Okay.
Changes are coming, yes.
Because it did that to me.
It did that, okay. Hey, here's your name card thing.
Did it come on now?
We don't have it.
None of y'all do.
No?
Mm-mm. It just has a desktop for some of them.
And then the other one is, like a screensaver kind of thing.
So if everybody stop touching things.
I love touching things.
That's what's gonna happen. Debbie.
Sorry.
I'm just kidding.
I'm like 5 years old inside, so.
Now?
Nothing.
We just may need to go. Watch up there. And just watch the
Watch
screens
over
up
here.
there.
Nothing. It wasn't Debbie.
We watched it, right? It's the same presentation.
It's different, but it's some of the same.
Some of the same information. Okay. I'll go ahead then.
Why won't they shut them down? load it up though on the. Let me try one thing.
Did everybody get an agenda?
It's not letting me.
No, let's just stick with what we got.
Okay.
Committee members will.
That's just announcing that.
We're gonna go ahead. Okay, cool. There's not much visual on the slides, it's really just bullet points, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Okay, it's 7:30, a quorum is present, so this meeting will come to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of October 18th, 2016. Please let me know if you find any errors.
I would like to amend item 4 just to add some more detail to what was discussed during that meeting, if we could. I guess adding to the record that there was a three persons needed to have a subcommittee regarding the housing planning survey and assessment.
Okay.
You want to second that?
I think we'll approve everything at the end.
If you like, you can approve it as amended, or you can table it until the next meeting.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve as amended?
I'll make the motion to approve as amended.
Okay. Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, then all in favor of approving the minutes as amended? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Then the minutes stand as amended. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for the assessment of fair housing overview. So I'd like to open this public hearing and then start off by saying the City of Louisville is conducting an assessment of fair housing and beginning work on a housing and community development 5-year strategic plan. In this planning process, the city wants to use local knowledge and local decision-making to determine the best way to revitalize distressed areas and/or expand access to quality housing through our community. So with that, I'd like to hand it off to Jamie, who will be doing the presentation.
Thank you. The public hearing is one of a series of public forums we'll have. We'll have another public forum 2 weeks from tonight, and the final public hearing will be before council when council considers the document itself. We have Western Economic Services serving as a consultant on this project, and they will perform the assessment of fair housing. And with us tonight to facilitate this public hearing is Robert Godin of Western Economic Services.
Well, thank you, Jamie. My firm has been conducting fair housing studies similar to this for 20 some odd years. We just did one for Fort Worth a couple years ago, so we're familiar with the area. But we've done them from Boston to LA and Montana to Mississippi and a lot of places in between over these years. We've seen how HUD has, if you will, watched it evolve, this process, and just a little bit ago, they kind of set some new ground rules. But I would like to review this with you so you understand why we're doing it and the depth of what we have to do. While you can't see these, I understand you can't see this, at least I get to watch that and get to go over my notes. But entitlement jurisdictions, such as your city, need to certify to HUD, certify that you're affirmatively furthering fair housing. Now, this is not a little report which you fill out or a form that you fill out and send off to HUD. It's a little bit more involved than that. In fact, for 20 years, HUD had something called the Analysis of Impediments to Fair Housing Choice, or AI for short. You know, you needed to conduct the study, actually do the study, identify some barriers to housing choice, and take action on these impediments. Now, we've been doing this for 20 some odd years. You know, once impediments are found, you need to track how you are taking care of those impediments and report back to HUD about your success or lack of success in that endeavor. Trying to get a feel for, well, next time we do this, maybe we'll do something slightly different. The AI process got into a little bit of trouble a few years ago. HUD actually didn't use an even-handed approach to kind of encouraging jurisdictions to do this study. Since we do it all over the country, I'll tell you, FHEO would say one thing at one side of the country and another thing at another side, and they've said all kinds of things. In this particular case, there's a pie-shaped county in New York that got sued by the Fair Housing Group, the Anti-Discrimination Center of New York City. The point of this pie-shaped county abutted New York City. People would drive to the city to work and drive home. Well, in their analysis of impediments, they were found to falsely claim their certification. They were forced back to pay all their resources to HUD, which was roughly $50 million. Oh, they also had to pay legal fees, another $50 million. So John Q. Public had to cough up that money because the projects were already built. You know, they had already put in sewer lines and what have you. Between 2009 and 2015, the entire country kind of came under the microscope at HUD. You know, we all had significant scrutiny and looking at AI studies. In fact, the Government Accountability Office got into piled on with that. Apparently we're having trouble with this. Microsoft is restarting. But you don't know that, so. The key points in this process was HUD finally came out with a proposed rule in 2013. They wanted to encourage inclusive neighborhoods, trying to reduce concentrations of poverty, increase access to community needs, and reduce disproportionate shares for minorities. In many ways, this springs from some academic articles done in the 80s on kind of troubles in Chicago's housing projects. And now we have those lessons kind of spread across the country. Today, HUD released the final rule in July of 2015, and now they're coming into play, and they need to be handed in beginning next year for jurisdictions. Such as yours. States will need to do theirs starting in 2018. But the final rule kind of set many of these things into action. You need now to conduct an assessment of fair housing, not an AI. The word impediments is no longer even in the rule. You have to use HUD data, the stuff they've provided to you. They've also provided maps. Right, so you need to get their tables, the tabular data, as well as their maps, and conduct this study. Identifying what your fair housing issues are, what kind of contributing factors there are, and as well, kind of prioritize what your housing goals and actions will be. Now, it's teamed with a consolidated plan. It needs to be submitted 9 months, 270 days prior to the consolidated plan, so it feeds the consolidated plan so that you can take your fair housing goals and your actions and implement them each year of your consolidated plan. You know, the fair housing issues, it's a condition that restricts housing choice or the access to opportunity. Contributing factors are those things which create or contribute, perpetuate, increasing or increases the severity of one or more of these fair housing issues. Our goals and actions are those things which, similar to the AI, what is it that we're going to do to overcome these things? Now, this is beyond violations of fair housing law. It's beyond the AI. These are really kind of rules. How can we cause some of our underlying social problems? Really, that's the idea. You know, I will be introducing you to this duty that you have, affirmatively furthering fair housing. I'll show you not so much in maps and data, but I kind of discuss with you some of these issues. The HUD provided indices. I really need, throughout this process and the times which I come before you, I really need all of your input about your opinions, your feelings. Do you think we can accomplish goals this way? Really about our fair housing issues and the factors as well. In the future, we'll provide some additional context for what's going on, discuss our preliminary findings, because we're just getting underway, and hopefully, you know, we will reach a conclusion. We'll get this into HUD. Now, I want to emphasize we are talking about the protected classes under state and federal law and local ordinance. These classes of people. The idea is there are, in fact, chapters which we have to accomplish in this. And there are 6 concepts, RCAP and ECAP, racially concentrated areas of poverty and ethnically concentrated areas of poverty. We need to take a look at that. There's also a segregation analysis. We need to take a look at that. Evaluating disparities in the access to opportunity. We need, of course, to define what is opportunity. Disproportionate housing need. Housing need represents those with unmet housing need. We take a look at our disabled community and their ability to access our resources. As well, we finally touch on what the old AI did. We're evaluating really the fair housing infrastructure. Do you have enforcement in place, or what agencies are involved in enforcement? What's been going on with lending and housing complaints and those kinds of things? Do you have sufficient resources, or are you lacking in resources? So all of these pieces are at work. The racially and ethnically concentrated areas of poverty, they're defined by census tract, comprising 40% of the population residing in poverty and 50% is non-white. Fortunately for you guys, there aren't any. So we have sidestepped a fairly large piece of HUD's rule. But remember, it's still there because we're looking back on what effect it had at large housing projects such as in Chicago. So this mold, if you will, is applied to every community, not just Louisville, but to Dallas, the entire state of Texas, all the states in the U.S., PHAs, qualified PHAs, and so on. All these jurisdictions that get money from HUD now need to do this. The segregation analysis is with a technical thing called a dissimilarity index. It's a quantitative measure. I won't get into it in too much detail, but it's a quantitative measure that kind of measures the degree of segregation and integration in your community. One of the really important ones regarding access to opportunity. Areas of opportunity are physical places. Again, these are all definitions. It's devised quantitatively looking at census tract data. How do we determine what is a physical place which has an area of opportunity? Well, they've identified this through quantitative means, indexes. There's low poverty and school proficiency, like your schools do fourth grade students, and everybody's goes through fourth grade, most everyone, and all the schools across the country, we can download HUD data and take a look at it. You know, whether it's labor market and transit, mass transit, job proximity to your place of residence, as well as your environmental health. Now, these are suggested. You can add additional ones if you wish. I do know that these all don't necessarily apply in any particular single jurisdiction, but several of them may. Disproportionate housing needs are those folks with housing problems. Either you have overcrowding or severe overcrowding, cost burden or severe cost burden. Cost burden is really actually the major issue. If you have housing costs that exceed 30%, then your cost burden in some way, or 50% of your income, then you're severely cost burdened. So all these things come into play. But really, when we begin to take a look at our disabled community, you know, are there sufficient housing to serve that community? You know, both public housing and assisted housing, whether that's vouchers or whatever, the marketplace, you know, what are the disabled experiences when they try to access housing? Do they face other problems? So each of these things we need to take a look at. As well, we'll also be taking a look at housing complaint data. Here we're back at the 6th point, the one that kind of looked like what we did for 20 some odd years with the AI. Take a look at housing complaints, how they've come in, what is the basis, like which class, protected class, is alleged to have suffered an injustice in a housing transaction, as well as the issues, like what did they do, discriminatory terms and conditions, or refusal to provide reasonable accommodation. We also take a look at lending, whether the lenders are discriminating. Back in the 70s, our legislature back in Washington passed some lending acts, Home Mortgage Disclosure Act, which required lenders to release us quite a bit of information about each loan application that came in, like the head of household, their race and their income and so on. And from that, while we can't tell you what your credit rating is from that data, we can say who got denied, what race, what gender, where the prospective home was located. We can also say for those who got a loan, what were the terms of those loans? Were they predatory in nature? Was there a problem with it? And who gets the predatory loans? So we can actually take a look at that today. So these are the kinds of things that we will be taking a look at, but it's extremely important to get the public engaged and have that opinion. They hopefully will share that opinion. So we do also have a fair housing survey. It will soon be available, I think within a day or two. And then they can take that survey and hopefully participate with our process. Now we are, in fact, on a fairly accelerated schedule. Today is the first Fair Housing Forum, this little introductory session. In a couple of weeks, we'll have a second Fair Housing Forum where we get into more detail about what the data is indicating, whether that's the dissimilarity index, or we know we don't have any RCAPs and ECAPs. So what do our areas of opportunity look like? How we might wish to define them? What are our needs for the disabled community? Of course, what kind of complaints do we have, which largely represent the rental market, and then, of course, the for sale market. My firm is to deliver to the city a draft for public review by December the 2nd. Notice that's roughly 30 days away. We are stomping on the gas. We'll have a city council work session on December 5th, so I kind of go over these things with you again. December 19th, the final report will be presented to city council, and our work is done on January 2. You have to turn it in through HUD's online portal. This is an online submittal. You can't just hand them a report. You actually have to press a button and send it to them. Oh, but you also have to sign it, so you need someone to sign that and send it to them. Different than the AI, it is required. The AI was never required. It was recommended. You had to produce it if they asked for it. So that made it seem like it was required, but now this is required. There are deadlines. And we will be meeting these deadlines, but we really encourage everyone to provide some commentary about their opinions, about their experiences. I can contact Jamie, but I'm here to answer any questions you might have, whatever they may be.
Okay, thank you very much.
Where are our package?
Do we have any questions?
Go ahead. Was there a copy of this? Was there a copy of the survey?
There is, yes.
Can we see the survey?
Would you like to see a copy of the survey?
We would like to see the copy.
Okay, you can have that. We had a staff meeting a couple hours ago, and I presented it to the city, and we talked about it. It hasn't been finally approved yet, but I guess Jamie would like to answer that question.
You can see the draft that has a few comments on it scribbled in, but it'll pass it over.
And then how will it be delivered to the public?
There, of course, will be printed forms at each of the meetings and printed forms distributed. There's also, it's actually SurveyMonkey, an online version, and email distribution will be created and submitted to the community and various groups and individuals. When you get your announcement with the survey link embedded, you can click on that link and go to it. I would certainly encourage you to forward it to anyone you can think of, especially your realtors and property manager friends and others in the housing industry to get their opinion.
Do we know what mailing list? I mean, will we be using residents who have water bills, or
We do not have time to do a mailing.
Or you said emails. How are
Email.
we? Right. How are we? What pool of emails are we using?
I'm depending on the city to address that.
Yeah, at this time, we're emailing it to a few groups that we have, groups of home buyers and grant applicants that have gone through our programs, and social service agencies, Realtors Association. We have several groups that we're going to ask to distribute the survey to their members, but there's not an email list of the general population. This won't be something that every household receives.
We also will be posting it on social media, but I want to emphasize this is not a statistically drawn survey. This is, if you will, a judgmental surveys. We're just trying to get everybody we can think of to participate.
I guess my thought was there was a good pool of people mentioned, but more of the persons maybe not in homes. The apartment, we have a lot of apartment complexes within Louisville, to get the survey out to those parties to find out what their needs are, maybe get them into homes. I guess was why I was asking that question.
Yeah, if we can post it at the, on the bulletin board in the front, you can go to this link. We can have printed copies delivered. It's, entirely up to the city to do. Yeah.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
Is it going to be in any other languages besides English?
We can do whatever language you want. I'm assuming if you want to have a Spanish survey, that's common. We've done them in Russian, Korean,
I think Chin would have
Chinese,
Yeah,
and of course
Chin.
Spanish.
Yeah, we will probably want to look at Chin because we do have a huge population.
At least enough.
It might be
Enough,
Burmese.
yeah.
And we know where that
Business.
population generally resides to concentrate it and not just be sending them out random.
Yeah, it's open to everyone.
So the survey approach, is that something that is specific to our process, or is that something that HUD recommends?
HUD recommends, they actually have a formula for trying to determine how many languages you need to produce, the 4-factor analysis. roughly, if you have 1,000 residents who have English as a second language, whatever that English is, then you should probably think about having access to those languages. It doesn't necessarily mean they all have to be printed. Like at the public meetings, you might need verbal translators if an announcement has been made that a verbal translation were needed. That's considered a special service, so you just need to give advance notice.
So, sorry, to clarify, that the form as a data gathering tool, is that recommended by HUD?
Is this one?
No. So maybe step back a bit. My questions are more related to the data that's being used to fill out the form and turn back to HUD. So at some point you mentioned that the data is provided by HUD itself. So what other data are we actually asking for? And is there guidance from HUD on how to collect that information?
Guidance from HUD. Remember, they just went through 20 years of getting in trouble. So they have a manual. They'll go look in there. You know, they encourage the collection of local data, whatever local data might be. We're going to collect the survey, that's local data. We're going to collect public input at public input meetings, that's local data. We're also going to do housing complaint data, that's local data. We're going to go talk with Francis Espinoza at the Fair Housing Center and talk, you know, see what they have, if they can contribute something. So that's local data. We also have the lending and, you know.
So in other words, the guidance from HUD is to collect local data, and it's up to your team and us to figure out how to do that.
That is correct.
Okay.
And can I take a moment? I know we have at least one audience member that can't stay. Could we open it up to if there are questions or comments from the audience, and then get back to committee questions?
Yes, please. Any citizen comments?
I have a question.
Please go ahead and come up front and give your name and address as well. Thank you.
Sure. My question really actually also pertains to the data. My name is Melva Franklin. I live in the Louisville area, not currently a resident in Louisville. I attend church here. And so my question has to do with the types of questions that are being asked. What types of data is it that you're going to be collecting? Is it, I heard you say it's about lending, so it's going to include some information about the loans that are available to people to move out of rental properties, perhaps into purchased housing. What other types of data is it that you're going to be looking for from residents as well as providers, housing providers?
Thank you. To clarify, the lending information is what is reported by the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act. So that represents people who have completed a loan, well, they've started a loan application. We'll determine in analyzing that data how many applications were completed, you know, because some of them don't get completed. And then others, you know, what the financial institution, the decision they made. So it's banks and non-banking institutions. It runs, you know, a full range of entities. There's a threshold by which they need to be able to report under HMDA, but it is nearly all financial institutions. The survey is another instrument that we're using. It doesn't ask, did you apply for a loan? It asks, are you a renter or a homeowner? And it asks more about what are your experiences or what is your knowledge about these various things. There's a private sector transactions and public sector transactions, and kind of gets a measure of the understanding that people, as well, particularly stakeholders, have about fair housing. Yeah. The other types of data are both qualitative, such as tonight is a qualitative data, and quantitative. You know, the quantitative, of course, is HMDA. You can quantitatively talk about the housing complaints that came forward and address the issues. Now, we're not going to open every individual complaint record and look at those, but those complaints are summarized. For example, We always submit a letter, a Freedom of Information Act request to HUD. Those went to HUD last week before we signed a contract. I was hoping we would finish. But they give us 22 days with work days, which is Monday through Friday. So hopefully we'll get that in time to put it in the document. So that the period of time we have is a little bit driving our process. But we're going to collect as much as we can.
Thank you for that answer. One other question has to do with distribution also of the instrument itself. And presumably, when you talk about fair housing, it addresses local people who fall into a lower economic status, correct? So then you want to get as much feedback from some of those types of populations as possible?
I am open to getting it. The survey can be filled out by anyone, and I'm hoping everyone can do one. There is theoretically no limit to the size of the sample. Since it's online, it can be every citizen in the city.
Right, but they have to be aware.
And so then, two more questions and I'll stop, I promise.
That's
How
okay.
long is the survey?
It's a few
How many
pages.
questions?
It should take, online, it should take approximately 10 minutes or less.
Can she see the
So,
draft?
can
She
we,
wants to see the draft?
can we consider, can I see it?
Yeah.
Do you mind?
I've got a copy here.
Okay.
If you wanted to see. It's got my notes on it.
Can we consider then the city making copies and for distribution at some of the local churches?
That would be excellent. I'm all in favor.
African American, Hispanic,
Yes,
Chan?
we certainly can, and we'll be looking for social service providers to help us distribute them as well.
I volunteered 3 churches, Hispanic, African American, and Chan.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you
love
very
to do
much,
it,
ma'am.
sure. Look forward to getting the results.
Thank you. As a follow-up to one of the questions she asked, how important is it to know some of the demographic information of the people filling out those surveys? Or is it just purely data that we're looking
You know,
for?
I'm actually having some trouble hearing you.
Oh, sorry. Is this better?
It's a little bit better, yes.
Okay, so how important is it to have the demographic information of the people filling out the survey? Or are you just looking for the data from the survey?
HUD has requested the demographics of participants to the public engagement process. They haven't requested the demographics for the survey. Since the survey is not a statistical sample, if you were to collect that, it wouldn't be that meaningful. We couldn't generalize it. So we typically use census data to characterize the attributes of the population. There's 2000, 2010, and the American Community Survey, which is done every year, and that's through 2004 currently.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I just
welcome.
find that odd because the answers are going to be different based on the demographic of the person who's answering or taking the survey. So I'm just trying to figure out, if they're just going to go by how that person answered to figure, why wouldn't they want to know the demographics of the person that's doing it? I understand that they're only looking for statistical data, but I mean, just like the lady back there, I mean, the whole purpose or the premise behind it is to make sure that certain demographic of people that were being affected by unfair lending practices or discriminatory practices. I mean, I'm trying to understand why they would not want to know who is filling out the Survey Monkey.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in HUD's head.
Because it almost defeats the purpose of having it. Because everyone's going to answer differently according to their interaction with the mortgage lender, with, you know, exactly.
Actually, it is important to get a broad perspective, so I'm okay with that. You know, I mean, the sample should represent, you know, everyone who's been involved with housing, you know, housing transactions, those people who made housing choices, if they chose to stay with a rental or only purchase. I think we'll hear about that.
I don't know that we would, based on the questions, I guess. I guess my concern was, do we just go by a template based, where do we get our questions from? And I ask that because it doesn't seem like we asked any questions specific to our Louisville residents and what they specifically, like some of the things that we know go on specifically in our town, to try to get, you know, information about, to address our town specifically, or our city
Stages specific, if that's what you're looking for.
No, because asking if you're aware of housing ordinance or regulations or plans within the city doesn't really tell you what someone's challenges are. That just knows, are you aware? And then the level of your aware, that's just a very subjective question, and I'm not sure how that tells you what someone's challenges are in the city of Louisville when it comes to housing, because they vary. These questions, I just don't see how they help us address those issues specifically for our residents in the best way we can.
Is there time for us to make updates to the survey?
Pardon me?
Is there time for us to make updates to the survey?
It's up to you guys.
Within, we want to have it out by the end of this week, basically. But you can send me comments. If you can send me comments tomorrow, we'll bounce them back with Mr. Godin and see what we can include.
I also think we have one more resident that wanted to make comments.
Sorry, I'm a little crippled, so just take time to get up there. My name is Becky Nelson, and I am the director of Chin Community Ministry. You heard them mention. Louisville is the home of what's called a spontaneous refugee community.
And Becky, go ahead and, if you can, get to the microphone, because this is also being recorded. I can hear you fine, but just in case.
Okay. My name is Becky Nelson. I am the director of Chin Community Ministry, which is a nonprofit that works to equip the 3,500 Chin refugees who have chosen to settle in Louisville, and we are concentrated in zip code 75067, and some of the poverty housing that was mentioned is where the Chin reside. I represent, of the 3,500, approximately 3,500 Chin who live in Louisville, I have on my database, meaning that I have helped them in the last 5 years, I represent 638 households for about 2,500 Chin people that I have statistics for. Of those statistics, the households, we are moving into houses. The Chin are moving into houses. It fits their multi-generational lifestyle because they can have more than one income. They can have 3 or 4 incomes because they often live with an aunt, and I'm talking young. Most everybody is young because the others can't make it out of Burma. So I have compiled for you, and I don't know if this is valuable, but I did make a copy for you of where we are concentrated. The biggest issue that I see based on what you presented is the percentage of income that goes to housing. Basically, the housing apartments that are concentrated in zip code 75067, their rent has doubled since 2010. What used to be a $550 two-bedroom apartment is now running about $1,100. If a Chin person, and not just Chin, there are other people, populations, Hispanic and other ethnic groups that are making, we are 95% employed. Louisville right now, every day I get a call saying we'll take more Chin people to work, so we are heavily employed. However, we are now up to approximately $11 an hour. For a one-person income at 40 hours a week, that equals $1,760 a month, and you are paying out $1,100 in rent. The housing is not extravagant. My office is in Basswood Apartments. We stay on the edge of even be acceptable housing. The others are a little bit better, and Basswood is much better since the city has really worked with them. But basically, you would call us Class C or Class D housing, which means that the housing is over 30 years, I believe is the distinction between in multifamily housing. That Class C housing is 30 years old, and Class D housing tends to be past 30 years old. And if you look at when Basswood was built, you know that it is close to being Class D housing, which is the lowest kind of housing, and yet the rent is still up to about $1,250. That does include utilities, but it is still way beyond. So what that means is that we're required to have 2-income housing and sometimes 3-income, and the kind of pressure that's putting on means that the oldest child, because when they come to from Burma, they have to go into 9th grade because Burma does not have any kind of educational system. So they go into 9th grade, means they're older when they go into 9th grade, and as soon as they hit 17, the family requires them to quit school, whether they have a high school diploma or not, so that they can provide the 3rd income. That is what is the effect of the housing. The other problem that we have is a shortage of that kind of housing. Again, I remind you, they are the working poor. They are working. Some of them working 2 to 3 jobs in order to provide for their family. But even with 2 people working, making $11 an hour, and most of the women do not make $11 an hour, they usually make $9. So even if they did make 11, you're looking at still 50% of your income going for housing that would not pass most people in Louisville. The rest of Louisville probably would not consider totally acceptable. I just brought that. I have this information as to where we are. We have 110 houses representing 200 households. Vistas on the Park is our largest. They are the ones that have gone the highest in rent. We have 127 households there. Oak Tree, we have 103. Basswood, we're down to 63. People are trying to move out as fast as they can, saving money to try to get out. Willow Ridge is 55, then it goes on down from there. So all of our apartment complexes are approximately are aging housing. Nobody ever builds Class C housing if it's based on aging. So the next question will be, where will they migrate? They're trying to get out of Basswood. They went over to Vistas on the Park. But again, the biggest issue is simply the percentage of income that has to be spent on housing.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for me? And I will be glad to, I will be glad to distribute surveys, et cetera, to the Chin. They will need Hakka Chin translation. The biggest difficulty is conceptual. You can have the words, but are they aware of fair housing? No. So a lot of it would just be based on the concepts that would be necessary.
So how difficult would it be to get a translation of the survey?
It's a question for Becky.
I'm sorry?
How difficult would it be to get a translation into Chin? I was under the impression that it would be pretty difficult.
The difficulty with translating into Chin is that Chin does not have, it's a very simple language, and it doesn't have many of the concepts that we have. So we just finished a recycling brochure for the city. There is no word for plastic. So basically, we use the English word plastic because that's the only, how can you describe what plastic is? So there's that kind of issue with translation. The other issue is, of course, that those methods of dissemination will not meet. Most of them don't use internet, email. The Census Bureau tried really hard. I'm really curious to see if we show up on the census this year or whenever. In the past, they didn't show up. Now the Census Bureau has actually contacted us, and we have actually had census people come in, and we have translated so that they can get census information. But I have the names, addresses, and phone numbers, and if anybody wants to say that we only have 10 Chin people in Louisville, I will tell you that we have 3,500. So to answer your question, it's difficult, but again, I think the question that you ask is what kind of information you want to get. If you want to know what they think is unfair, they can tell you that. It's unfair that you don't get things fixed when it's time to get fixed. There's a lot of unfairness that just goes on with poverty housing. Takes a long time to get something fixed, and if we have to, we go to the city.
Is that the kind of information we're looking for in this survey?
Yes. Well, that's, as a committee, yes, that's,
Okay,
yes,
yeah.
that's the type of information we're looking for.
I mean, do you have ideas of how you're going to use this kind of data? Is this information that's helpful?
I do have ideas, and I guess I'll talk with Jamie about any additional data that you'd like to collect and how we might use that.
All right.
Can I just make one other comment?
Yes, please.
It seems to me if it's going to be about access, there ought to be.
Come on up to a microphone. Thanks.
Seems to me if it's going to be a discussion about access, there ought to be a plan to talk about expanding access if that access is not being met, if people aren't having either adequate or enough supply of housing available to them, then perhaps the plan ought to be how do we create more accessible or available affordable housing, and how do we make those opportunities available to people in ways that are useful.
Thank you. Our objective is to reach our goals, fair housing goals, and they are whatever you choose. If you choose the goal that she's talking about, then we'll talk about that goal and what actions you might need to take to accomplish that goal over the next 5 years. There's a timeline, there are specific things you'll need to be responsible for if you choose to go there.
How big of a part does the survey play in figuring out our fair housing goals?
I'm really sorry, I just can't seem to understand what's coming back from over here, so.
Should I pull it down?
I think,
Oh, I don't know then.
no, how big of a role does the survey play in figuring out what Louisville's fair housing goals are?
It is a part of the puzzle. The puzzle has a lot of pieces, so it's one of those pieces. I like to include the survey because it's a measure of what people understand. If they lack understanding, it tells us something. If they understand things incorrectly, that also tells us something. If they've been experiencing something in particular, that will tell us also. So each of those pieces we can draw from the survey. As an answer to how you promote a certain housing for a certain group, I'm not sure that the survey per se, but across all the different pieces of data that we collect and the policies that we're going to suggest. Now, I'm not going to suggest policies. I'm going to suggest notions for you, the community, to consider, and your elected officials will have to decide what those are at some point. And later on, you'll need to decide how much money. Is it just staff that will do these, or will we set aside some money from HUD or other resources to take action on these things? So that's kind of where we're headed. Exactly what this young lady talked about here. How are you going to make this housing available? Is that a priority for you? Then we'll write it up. So this is really about you. It's not about me. I'm just the guy who's kind of turning the crank, if you will, trying to get it together for you.
I have a question for you. I know in looking at the, up there, you were talking about the disabilities, the citizens of disability. Will there be any type of classes? I mean, because I was looking at the survey, and of course, one of them, it says like, don't know. It's yes, no, or don't know. So would there be a class, or would there be any type of education for the people to?
Education and outreach is not a current piece of the element of what my firm is providing to the city. We're focusing just on this study, but I do believe outreach and education has a very important role in fair housing. Because as this lady here suggested, and numerous people don't have an understanding about what that means, you know, what their landlord obligations are, what their tenant obligations are, you know. So I'm all in favor of outreach and education, but it's not my role to perform the outreach and education.
So to clarify, that can, based on the surveys and based on the data analysis that his firm is going to give us, that could be one of the goals or policies that we develop.
That is correct.
And having said that, are there any other public comments? Please, John.
Hi, my name's John Ling. I live at 213 Ridgeway Circle. Basically, I guess what I'm trying to get a better handle on, I guess, is the overall, plan of action. All right, so I don't know, I haven't seen the survey, so I don't know what's being asked. But but the thing that I want to find out is, are we trying to figure out how to make more people homeowners, or what is the ultimate goal, I guess? Like, the survey is supposed to answer or get a plan of action for what? Does that make sense? Okay.
The goal of the whole process is to analyze what our fair housing issues are, and then to develop any strategies that help us move towards solving any of the issues that we identify. Which is basically saying, I mean, HUD knows that our resources are limited. Right. You know, that we have a certain amount of grant funding per year. Not to say that cities can't also use other funding sources. We'll be trying to identify realistic goals. So homeownership programs could be a goal, but so could the outreach and education, or so could development or rehabilitation of
existing inventory,
existing multifamily housing. It's hard to address housing cost from what we can do, but but there are a number of I guess the process will suggest strategies.
So it sounds to me that it's less about home ownership as to let people have a place to live, so renters included. There's a copy of the survey up here and over there if you want to take a look at it. It looks like the survey's more, you can correct me if I'm wrong. My impression is the survey is just to see what the awareness of fair housing is, and maybe possibly an opinion of it, but not really the application of fair housing laws or the effectiveness of the fair housing law. So that's not what the survey seems to be about. It's more about people, if you want to take the survey, what do you know about fair housing? What do you think of it? The end. And so I think part of what our struggle is how is that opinion, that qualitative data really going to translate to a quantitative
to a plan of action.
Place. So that's something that I'm struggling with just by my very quick glance at that survey. And I know that there's only a 2-month turnaround for whatever the final thing that we're turning into HUD is. I think it'll also help us understand what exactly are the data points and the things that HUD are requiring, as you're saying, from us, and how can we make sure that the data we're collecting is going to be representative of our city by January.
Yeah, I like
And
that.
Mr. Goodan can remind us, but the survey is adding to what the HUD data that we have and other data that he'll be collecting will be in the plan.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Jamie, I guess I have a question.
It seems like you asked, kind of implied a question whether the survey is required by HUD. The answer is no, it's not. This is something I have found over the years to be a useful instrument. And you're right, we're gauging the understanding of fair housing, but not just fair housing law, but all the attributes of fair housing. Because to communicate with the public, we need to understand where they're at. And so that's the tool. Now, we can get wrapped around the axle and spend weeks and months kind of figure out which question to ask and so on. I want to remind you that I need to deliver a draft for internal review this month to the city. And so all that's done. I'm just hoping to get a few responses. We had one customer who was in Louisiana who had a very long time to do the survey, and we received roughly 4,300 surveys, and that was our best survey. Other jurisdictions, and it doesn't matter if you're a state of 1 million square miles, and we've done them there too, sometimes the surveys, somehow it just doesn't reach, it's the same method, but somehow people don't care, I'm not sure what. But it's important to participate. These other methods we have to look at the data HUD has provided, I won't get into the detail, there's plenty of problems with HUD's data and HUD's maps and all this other stuff. In the online portal, you can't even use the document as a public document because there's no maps and no data, and it's just narrative. It's just like not formatted, not anything. But, you know, that's another matter for Jamie and I to discuss. Like, how do we get the word out? But we are on a very unusually tight schedule. I would not recommend it to do it this way next time when you proceed to do this 5 years from now.
Is there a reason why we are on this timeline?
I don't know what the timeline. I think it's a very challenging event because this is the first time. I mean, on the other hand, HUD has dropped the ball. We have a state, and after we did this assessment of fair housing, HUD says, well, actually, we don't have the tool ready. Maybe it'll be ready next year. And then we found out, oh, we've put your state in with a couple other states. We're going to do a pilot next year, so it won't be ready to the following year. But you have to use it to submit your consolidated plan. Fortunately, for an entitlement, such as you guys, you have it. It's totally usable for you.
Question. So I'm assuming you and Jamie have been speaking regarding the survey and whatnot. Do we have a direction on where we think our goals are going or what direction we're going in so then maybe we can change our train of thought about what the survey currently, how it currently reads?
We have a scope of work, and so that's kind of the roadmap that I'll follow.
Do you mean what the goals may be that
right, because it seems
in
like,
the plan?
Right, because it's the questions right now, it's like, well, we don't know what the goal is. So so our problem is this doesn't provide us with Louisville data, right? So if we had goals, if we knew where the city wanted to go with the plan.
Yeah, we don't really want to prejudge those goals necessarily.
Okay.
But there are, could you speak to some of the common outcomes in assessments that you've done before? Some of the types of strategies that are adopted or could be adopted?
outreach and education is always there. You know, some jurisdictions want to go and conduct education for prospective homeowners so they understand the distinction between what is a predatory instrument and what is not a predatory instrument. There's also the education of rental community and, you know, what is a reasonable rental lease and what is not. There's also, of course, fair housing testing and that, but those were all the AI pieces. This is kind of new, and it's more about what your community will do with your HUD dollars, right? If you do this well enough to pass HUD's okay, then you get your money. If you don't do it well enough, you'll get to do it again and again until it gets done. And we're not sure what that is because no one has been passed off on one yet. The assessment of fair housing haven't been done. They're just starting to come in.
Okay, are there any further questions? Any more from citizens? Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation
You're very
tonight.
welcome. Thank you for your
I
time.
think we all learned a lot. So now I guess I will close this public hearing. And the next item on the agenda is adjournment. Do we have a motion?
Go ahead.
I motion to adjourn.
A second.
All right, all in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting is adjourned.